I
Hmm.
believe we're there to give them what's best for their future as citizens, as people. You
Yes,
know,
ma'am.
if I just taught them how to add, subtract, multiply, divide, I am giving them something, right?
Yes,
But am
ma'am.
I giving them something that would be meaningful? It depends on who it is, but I believe there's always something more to be able to give to these students that's more meaningful than the content that we're teaching.
Welcome to season 2, episode 5 of your favorite teacher's favorite teacher podcast.
All right, I'm Gina Wilson. I've been an educator for middle school for 8 years now. Maybe it's nine.
Wow,
So, yeah,
9 years. That's
9 years.
great. I'm sure that you enjoyed it, right?
I do. It's the honestly the longest job I ever had. So,
Oh wow. Well, I mean, and talking about the longest job you ever had, that leads us into our first section.
right.
The part that I like to call the journey. And in the journey, what I like my guests to do is just tell the audience about the journey that they've been on from when they decided to become an educator to where they are today. And I know I talked to you beforehand, and you got a pretty amazing journey that I know my audience is going to be excited about hearing. So I'll turn the mic over to you, and you tell them about your journey into education.
Okay, well, I'm actually going to start just a little bit before I became a teacher. I was a semi 18-wheeler truck driver. Before that, I was working in corporate America, call centers, uh, but as a truck driver, just been out on the road and really leaving corporate America and going into truck driving. Actually, I call it my sabbatical. Of course, then it wasn't, but and the reason why I call it my sabbatical because at the end of it, once things started to manifest itself, I knew that that was my time to reflect on who I was, what I was really doing with my life, and where I wanted to be. So I just remember being on a truck, and I can't remember what state I was in, but I just felt like I was still missing something in life, right? That it
Right.
wasn't fulfilling. Now, I did want to travel around the United States, so I guess that was my opportunity to travel around the United States. But in that time, trying to figure out, did I really want to be a truck driver for the rest of my life? And I did have some question, like, other people that I know in my life was always stable. They always had a good job. They stayed on a job forever. And I always wondered, why was I never satisfied enough to stay on a job? Like, I liked a lot of my jobs, right? I enjoyed doing the work that I was doing, but it always at a certain point became, there's got to be something better. I could be given more.
Hmm.
When I say better, it wasn't about the money because I've had jobs that paid more than not, and I really wasn't as happy. But I just needed something satisfying, I guess you could say, in life, that I was accomplished something. And I didn't feel like, working in a call center, whether it was telecommunication or claims, that that it brought satisfaction, that I was doing something worthwhile, right?
Right.
So while I was on my truck, I prayed about that because most of the time I was driving at night, wasn't nobody up. So it was a lot of time to self-reflect. And I knew that at a certain point that I didn't want to drive trucks all my life, no matter how much money they made. I miss my family, but I miss just being around people.
Hmm.
And so then my spirit told me, listen, you got a degree. I could get off the truck. I didn't know what I was going to do, right?
Right.
Like, okay,
Right.
you worked in corporate America, you've been off the truck for a year, who's going to give you a job? And so it was, you know what, you could become a substitute, get your feet grounded back in corporate America, if that's what it is, and figure out what you want to do. Well, I got off the truck. I became a substitute, and I really enjoyed it. Like, my favorite subject in school was math. So I figured this will let me know if I really wanted to be a teacher or if it was just something I wanted to try out. Well, I got off my truck in mid-May and school is out, the end of May, beginning of June, most cases. So it was about mid-May when I got off my truck and I became a substitute. And I substitute with a couple of schools.
Right.
This time I was living in Jacksonville. So I substitute for a few schools in Duval County.
Oh.
And then the summer happened, and it's like, okay, now what am I going to do? I need some money. Still
Hmm.
got some bills to pay. And they was having a job fair. So I was like, okay, I got a little bit of experience. Let me just see what is education all about.
Hmm.
So I went on a job fair and, we talked about it. It was like a speed job fair, 15 minutes, whatever school you want to apply for, the education system, we really need teachers, right? So
Right.
they were trying to interview as many people as they can. Well, I didn't sign up for this one school. However, I substituted at the school. And so what happened was I said, well, actually, let me back up a little bit. I'm sorry.
No, you
One of
good.
the principals from the high school because I thought I wanted to do high school, he was like, you're new to education. I would suggest you start with middle school first and work your way up to high school just to get your feet wet. And I took that. I felt that when he gave me that from his experience. So I appreciated that. And that's when I realized, hey, I didn't write my name down for the one school that I did substitute at,
Hmm.
and it was a Title I school. But the table was empty. The principal wasn't there. Nobody was hiring. So, I mean, not hiring. He wasn't there. So I figured he was finished. But then he came back and I sat at his table and we talked a little bit and he asked me what subject. I told him math and he said he had some RLA position. And I'm a math person. I'm reading and writing. Thank God for Google, right? I wish we had AI back then, but yeah,
I
it,
know,
it
right?
satisfied it, right? So he said he hired for the math position that he had, and then he kind of paused for a second. He's like, one teacher told him, she'll get back with him about the position. And he paused again and he go, you know what? Do you want the position? And I go, yes. And we went over to the hiring table. I signed the paper and
Wow.
I became a teacher. He God rest his soul, he passed away recently. Very young guy, Caleb Gottberg. He gave me my first position.
Mm.
He took a chance on me, I would say, because I had no experience to allow me to become a teacher. And I started in 2016, 2017.
Okay.
I actually stopped counting after a few years, kind of started running together. But 2016, 2017 is when I became a teacher. And I really believe that it was just ordained. I'm a
Right.
person of faith.
Hmm.
And the way that everything happened, it was time for it to manifest itself. And so I taught in Jacksonville for a little bit and then COVID happened and I moved back home to Tampa. I'm originally from Florida. So I moved
Hmm.
back home from Tampa and, from there I came out here to Texas, been out here about 2 years, uh, teaching now. But um, so I didn't become a teacher in a normal sense. Like I've, I would say most of the teachers that I've worked with,
Right.
they knew their path. They
Right.
knew they was going to go to school, and maybe they didn't know they wanted to be a teacher, but they went to college, right? They knew that
Hmm.
somewhere, somehow they was going to be a professional.
Right.
Well, that wasn't how it worked for me. I barely graduated I graduated from summer school in high school.
Okay.
So I didn't
Okay.
graduate in the normal time frame. So,
Hmm.
but every year I was out every year I went to summer school. There was not one year that I don't remember that I was not going to summer school. And so, as I've gotten older, I thought about it. If I was a child today, they would probably say I had a learning disability, which
Mm.
I guess I'm self-diagnosed, but I know from just being around the education system, I
Right.
do have a learning disability. It takes me a while to grasp things, but through
Hmm.
work I get it, and uh the dedication of wanting to learn and get better is there. So I didn't come through the normal track as far as being an educator. So I don't take it lightly. I do think it is my purpose at this moment to be a teacher, and it was in my purpose to become a teacher. And I think that, you know, we like to set ourselves up to be successful in
Hmm.
whatever way that we think it is or what it may look like for us. And for me, I really never thought of it, to be honest with you. I honestly thought I'd be working at McDonald's and being some kind of regional manager at McDonald's. Um, and Big Macs and French fries were going to be my life, but God had a different plan. And so here I am again, 8, 9 years, I guess, uh, as a middle school teacher.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
And so that is a fantastic journey that you went on. But there's something that I really wanted to emphasize and point out that you said
Mhm.
and this just goes to show you, that when God has a plan for you, it is destined to happen. It's going to happen.
Exactly.
You talked about how you were in the interview process.
Uh,
You wanted this math position, and didn't you say that the principal already had people in mind, right?
he offered the position, his math position, he had offered to other interviewees. So
Wow.
honestly, he did not, as he thought, he did not have an open position in math. He really wanted an RLA teacher. And God knew what he was doing.
Look
Gave
at
it
that. I
to me.
mean, think
We
about
both be
how
using the dictionary trying to spell. Huh? I can
hey,
tell you how to
hey,
use the dictionary, baby,
uh,
because we're gonna be able to spell these words.
exactly. And people they look beyond that and like, hey,
Yes.
listen, teachers learn too.
Yes.
But the big
Always.
thing, God put this in front of you
Yeah.
and gave you that opportunity that like you are able to excel in and exceed it, succeed in, and that's amazing to think, what it would have been like had you ended up in the RLA classroom versus where you can shine in the math
Right. The
classroom. You
math.
know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Because and we had conversations before
Yeah.
this podcast. You mentioned to me about how you were able to grow your students using the format that we talked about, and hopefully we're going to be able to get you right back at that
Right.
level. That's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
And like to just think about how in one moment you're not even thinking about education. The next
Right.
moment, let me sub to see if this is for me. Next moment, you're in the classroom as the teacher of record, like bringing kids up, growing kids, and how amazing that is. And I say to you, that truly is a sign that that's what God wanted you to do.
Without a doubt.
We don't know how much longer He gonna have you here in
Right.
education. You got some other teaching that you got to do.
Yes, indeed.
And
Yes.
and we gonna talk about that a little bit later
Okay.
too.
Okay.
But the next part of the
Mm,
podcast that I want to talk about is called the yin and the yang. In
okay.
this portion of the podcast, what I like my guests to do is to talk to the audience about their worst day as an
Mhm.
educator. And so that we finish off on a positive note, then talk about their best day as an educator. And so just tell us that story about one of your bad days. And I'm sure that you've had a lot of
Yeah.
great days as an educator, and just finish it off on a positive note and tell us about one of your best days as an educator.
Well, wow, one of my worst days. Honestly, I don't know if I'm diving in the weeds, but I want to say I've had some challenging days, right?
Okay.
I
Okay.
wouldn't say they was worse,
Hmm.
but I had some difficult days. So I had some more difficult days because I think if I had like real worse for me, if they
Right.
was worse, then I probably wouldn't have been teaching anymore, right? So man, I think the more challenging days, I probably had a few of them um with this stimulation is that, I've always been in a Title I school, which is
Right.
usually the demographics of a Title I school, um, low income,
Right.
poverty, and different things that the students and their family challenges that they go through on a daily basis, right? So
Right.
I think my most challenging days at the Title I school is when we have disruption because of behavior issues.
Right.
So for me, I would say probably in my second or third year,
Okay.
the school that I was at, it was, I'm going to call it a typical Title I school, but we've not like our current school, right? It's totally
Right.
Title I's
Right.
got different levels,
Yeah, they do. They
And
definitely
so I
do.
was probably at a top tier Title I that, you know, um, where we have to call the police quite
Right.
often about some things.
Hmm.
So, but I would think that the worst day is, I don't know. I'm going to leave it. I'm going to talk about me being a teacher as the worst days, not what happened on
Okay.
campus.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
as
Okay.
a teacher, I would say my most challenging days is where the students um, was truly defiant and just
Okay.
seem like they don't care. And
Right.
no matter
Right.
how you try to motivate them, encourage them,
Mm-hmm.
it was always something difficult. And this one student, he was known to have a behavior issue at the school I was at, and he slapped cursed me out. Like
Really?
it was a-okay, like everything was good. And it was bad for me because it was he seemed comfortable with doing it, right?
Right. To
Like
an adult.
it wasn't like, should I do it? I'm a little nervous, I should do it. No, it was like, hey, I'm gonna give it to her. She can handle it, she can handle it, she don't.
Right.
And I just felt like at that point, how can I reach students like that if they're,
Right.
middle school? And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I was still in sixth grade then, and they was, middle
Wow.
school, they're still young, but sixth
Wow.
grade, these students has gone through a lot. So handling an adult in a way that most adults not used to
Uh-huh.
was a little challenging. So that really it hurt me, because I'm like, man, this is serious for this young man to have such I I'm going to say anger,
Okay.
that he had such anger and he was going through so much that he felt like the teachers that was trying to help him,
Mm-hmm.
encourage him, and support him, that he couldn't see that he would rather be um he would rather have that type of dialogue and be disrespectful,
Respectful. Yep.
um just because he didn't
Yeah.
want to learn, just because he didn't want to follow instructions. So I would say that was probably my most challenging day
Mm-hmm.
out of all of the days that I've been as a teacher.
Well, and let me interject on this because one of the things that to me is extremely powerful is you talked at the beginning about when you were in school and you were that student that had to go to summer school and stuff,
Yeah.
and myself, I'm not gonna say I had to go to summer school, but I know that I was a problem child. I know it like that. I was more the kid that I didn't curse out adults. I
Right.
cursed out other students.
Okay.
I got in fights in school. Like, and the thing is like people like you and I who've been there, done that. We can relate to what it is that these kids are going through and the emotions that they're feeling, and to be able to reach them.
Right.
And that is when I say that's powerful, that's extremely powerful. A lot of people don't understand that in education, a lot of this stuff is built on relationships. And
Yes.
those relationships are built because we understand where the kids are coming from.
Right.
And so when you have a student like that, somebody who's never experienced that, the first thing that they're going to do is, hey, I'm going to write you up. I'm going to get you out of my class.
Right.
Instead of, here, let me understand where this child is coming from. Let's have that conversation. I'm not saying don't write them up, but at the same time, like there was a situation where I had a young man that was just blatantly defiant,
Hmm.
cursing, refusing to do anything. Yes, I wrote the young man up, but at the same time, I told him, once you're done with the principal's office, we're going to sit down and we're going to have a conversation. We're
Right.
going to find out, we're going to get to the root cause of why you're acting the way that you are. Because,
Right.
yes, I've been there, I've done that. And I know that I had a reason for doing what I did. And I want to know what your reason is.
Right.
And
Right.
so that helped to build a relationship with that young man in a way that, like my homeboy used to say, he would be willing to run through a wall for me
Hmm.
because I
Yes.
built that relationship.
A good day.
Good day,
Best
great,
day.
best day.
Um, I think one of my best days is when the student says thank you,
Uh-oh.
right?
Yep.
Not just out of the blue. And this actually has happened to me several times, and it always catch me off guard.
Uh-huh.
But it solidifies that it's important to make that connection, as we was talking about with those students, right?
Right.
So even if they're not behavior students, just students that want someone to encourage them. And last year it happened, and the year before it happened, and um, just for that student to say thank you. Last year, just talking, just having general conversation I do with the student. One of the students said, Miss Wilson, It's usually if they call my name a lot, I told them I got married and I'm not going to tell them my last name, right? Like, oh, I got married and I'm not going to tell you my last name. But the student was like, no, I really got something to tell you. I was being goofy with them. And she was like, I just want to say thank you. And I go, for
Oh.
what? Because I know I hadn't did nothing, I haven't given her no candy. And she said, thank you for helping with my math. Thank you for just being helping me learn math and
Right.
and supporting me and encouraging me is pretty much what she said. She like, I felt like I was never going to get good at math, but with your help, I become better. And I always tell them, I'm not doing the work. You're doing the work.
Mm-hmm.
It's nothing I'm doing. I can encourage you and let you know you could do better. But it's the student that actually put forth the effort to become better. And that's what I told her. And those those moments, those moments are the moments that helps refill the cup.
Right.
Some of those moments that help refill the cup and say, in their own little way. Not all of them say thank you verbally, but they
Mm-hmm.
say thank you in their own little way. By saying, "Oh, look what I did my homework." That's the
Mm-hmm.
way they say thank you because you had a student that wasn't doing homework and not even trying. Then all of a sudden they're trying. It's something to encourage about. So, um, those are usually some of the best moments is the student saying thank you for helping them become better at being a
What?
student of math.
Yeah. It's a lot of educators.
Mhm.
People, and look, I'm gonna say this, but please, people in the audience, don't get it twisted. Teachers do love getting paid. Um,
Yeah.
but just hearing that from the
Mhm.
students, that makes an educator's day to say that all of the hard work that you put in actually meant something to the kids that you are servicing.
Yes.
And like people don't get that. They don't understand that that feeling that we get when a kid, like I say this all the time. I in the first couple of years that I taught, like I constantly had speeches with students, but it
Sure.
was always that one student that I was never talking to because they always did what they were supposed to do. They came
Right.
back and was like, hey, Mr. Stubblefield, what you said to me reached me and touched me. And I'm like, wow, wow.
Yeah.
That's what I live for when it comes to education. Being able to make a difference in a kid's life. You know, not all of them are gonna say thank you.
Right.
But like you say, they're gonna do it in their own
Their own
way.
way. Yeah,
And that means a lot.
and I definitely agree with that. And sometimes we don't see it and we may not see it 4 years later. We all know
Yeah.
those educators that said, that
Hmm.
one student that I just never thought I would be able to encourage or get to came
Hmm.
back when they was an adult,
Yep.
right? And I
Hmm.
think that in itself shows educators how important they are to the individual students. And again, it is not about them saying thank you at all, but when they do, it makes a whole difference. So I can only imagine those educators that the student come back years once they're an adult, right?
Right.
Or they see them because their kids are not going to the school and that teacher is still there. And they
Hmm.
say to the teacher, if it wasn't for you, this would have happened for me, or I think this is what would have happened for me, or what have you. So those special moments, and I think that most teachers would say that was bigger than any pay scale that anyone can ever give to them. I wholeheartedly think that every teacher for that moment
Yeah.
and will never forget that student
Hmm.
for never forget them when they said thank you or
Yep.
how much they impact their life to do something better when the time manifests itself. And oh, excuse me, with the yin yang, it is always a two-sided sword, I guess you could say, as being a teacher, right?
Yes.
because we want to give our best, but then there's things that surround us that will limit
Mm.
how much we can give to those students, right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, or how can we give to a student because of perception or because of things that are not
Yeah.
correct?
Politically correct. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
And
Yes.
then when you think about it, those students that we stand in front of, their lives are so much more important than being politically correct.
Yes,
You
ma'am.
know, I think
Yes,
they're
ma'am.
the correctness that we give them, and we see the things that we see that they go through, and many of them been less than 13 years old, has gone
Mm.
through things me as 53, I would never have thought of even having to go through, right?
Right.
So sometimes being politically correct has to be put on the back burner, but being lovingly corrected,
Yep.
being spiritually loving, I believe makes, well, I know for a fact, having faith and having to teach students will overcome anything politically correct that a district will ever want us to do as teachers, right?
Yes,
I
ma'am.
know
Yeah.
some teachers have to say, okay, well, we can't do this and we don't supposed to do that. And my thing is, we're not just there to give the students what's best educationally. I
Mm-hmm.
believe we're there to give them what's best for their future as citizens, as people. You
Yes,
know,
ma'am.
if I just taught them how to add, subtract, multiply, divide, I am giving them something, right?
Yes,
But
ma'am.
am I giving them something that will be meaningful? It depends on who it is, but I believe there's always something more to be able to give to these students that's more meaningful than the content that we're teaching, which is sometimes math doesn't happen. Sometimes talking about life and the things that's going on around us makes more of an impact that day than dividing a word problem.
Yes.
So I truly believe that when you come from a good place and you truly want the best for your students, for those that you are, because I have a relationship with a lot of students that not my students, right? That
Right.
doesn't sit in my class.
Right.
So I think as educator, we have an opportunity, honestly, to goodness, to change the projection of what we see in this world
Yes.
by the way we address our students.
Mm-hmm.
And the one thing that keeps me going, honestly, is my faith. When I get frustrated, when I
Mm-hmm.
get upset, when I get angry, I have to say to myself, as a follower of Christ, as many times I have chosen to do wrong, God and Jesus have still allowed the love they have for me to show. And
Amen.
so I take that to heart, that I cannot give up or give in to when I'm frustrated, because there's so much more out there that is important. And I would like to be that light as much as possible, right?
Mm.
And so yeah, I think we have more than a duty to teach content because
We do.
of the time we spend with each individual life for 10 months. We spend more time with them than their family, right?
Yes.
So we have a bigger effect, I think, in some cases than family members because of the time that we do spend with them. 10 months out of the 12. Well, outside of the few vacation weeks, but we do spend a lot of time with them.
We do.
So
We do. We
I
do.
think it's important for us to remember that it's this is one of those things that it's all about giving.
Yes, ma'am.
It's all
It
about
is.
giving to others and not
Mhm.
really to receive, because you may not get those thank yous until the end of the year.
Yep.
You may not get that. I guess if you're looking for that, if you're looking for someone to praise you and say, encourage you and give you, say, great job in doing that, then yes, you're looking for that. But when you're not looking for that and all you want to do is make sure you give them your best,
Yeah.
then thank yous are very appreciative.
Yes, it is. We I if you're in this profession to hear thank you all the time, then this ain't the
Yeah,
profession for you.
yeah. You yeah, you might want to go stand in a Chick-fil-A line or something, but
Yes,
you'll hear
yeah,
my
yeah.
pleasure
You're
all
gonna
the
hear it a whole
time.
lot more than
Yeah.
that.
Yes,
But
yes.
and you touched on a fantastic point. We as a collective, as educators, we have the opportunity to impact the trajectory of our students. You know, if we are all on the same page as educators,
Hmm.
the future of our country is going to be amazing because
Yeah.
we do have that much of an impact on the young people.
Yes.
Like just like the teachers before us. You know, I remember I told you I was a pretty bad kid, and there were a lot of teachers that saw something in me that
Hmm.
were willing to have those critical conversations with me about my attitude and no matter how smart I was, like the attitude is what's going to take me far along
Right.
with uh my book smarts. So like they changed the trajectory of where I was gonna go. They were some of my favorite teachers, which
Right.
leads us into the next section, which I call the namesake of the podcast, your favorite teacher's favorite teacher. And in this
Mhm.
part, we that's what we're going to talk to. You know,
Okay.
this is your opportunity to give flowers to those educators, and when I say educators, the teachers, those aren't just the people in the classroom. They can also
Right.
be people outside of the classroom that have impacted you, uh, that have made a difference in your life, um, or those educators inside of the classroom that you didn't get the chance to say thank you to. Now's your chance to say thank you to that teacher or educator out there that hopefully is listening to the podcast
Right,
and
right.
you know
Retired educators.
yeah so
Yes, y'all
this
did a
is
great
your
job. Thank you for
opportunity.
handling the batons.
So I'm going to turn the mic over to you and you can
Okay.
talk about that person or people in your
Man.
life that have impacted you in the way that we were just talking about just this section a few seconds ago that have made that impact on your life.
When I thought about this, it's a lot of teachers. Some of them I don't remember the name, but you know
Right,
what? I remember their presence,
right,
you know?
right.
Because being the age that I am and going through some of the things I've gone through, like I can't tell you their name, but I could just remember how I felt
Mm-hmm.
when I was in their classroom or when they talked to me, you know. And it
Right.
was several teachers. I remember from sixth grade, a couple of teachers from sixth grade, um, and then in seventh and eighth grade, it was actually uh Miss Yonkers. Miss Yonker, I went to Van Buren Junior High in Tampa.
Mm-hmm.
And Miss Yonker was my RLA teacher. And then Miss Spence was my science teacher,
Okay.
which is, I'm going with Miss Spence because this is actually amazing. So Miss Spence was my science teacher. And she always said encouraging words. She was a young teacher, so she was very gung-ho in middle school. Um, I think we were probably, for that time, we was probably typical middle schoolers. I know I was, not having the problem of learning. I got in some trouble too,
Right.
right?
Right.
I got into a lot of trouble. Back then we used to get paddlings, and Mr.
Yes, I remember that.
Fisher, the assistant principal or the dean, yeah, I knew him quite well, unfortunately. But I think I'm gonna go with Miss Spence because, and then I mean, there's been a few like Miss Dawes and those my high school teachers. They really was something different, but
Uh-huh.
Miss Spence, the unique thing about her encouragement. Right before I left for Texas, I was still teaching in Tampa, and I was teaching summer school. I was teaching summer school, and what happened is we was using Ingenuity. We was using Ingenuity as one of the summer school programs, right?
Right.
And then the teacher that was over the summer school program, I thought she looked familiar. Right? We're
Mm-hmm.
like, man, I think I know this lady, but I'm not sure because I'm pretty much know everybody. And I was in Tampa at this time where I graduated school. And I wanted to say something to her, but I didn't because I was like, man, I can't look foolish. Maybe she just looked like this person and maybe she don't. But uh a week or so later, because we kind of had like a training
Uh-huh.
session, and then a week or so later we started summer school or so, and I had a question, and she said, "I think I used to be a teacher," and I was like, "Oh my goodness, this is her." She said, "Hold on a minute," and she left, and she came back, and she had a picture that I gave her when I was in I kid
You're lying.
when
You're
I was in middle
lying.
school,
Are you
and
serious?
yes, I've been in Texas for 2 years, so this was less than 3 years ago.
Oh
And she
wow.
was retiring. She
Oh
was retiring.
what?
And she showed me that picture and I go, oh my goodness, I said, that baby right there was going through some things. And she was like, yeah. And I remember having whole, I remember just releasing a lot of things to her because of
Mm-hmm.
things that I was experiencing in middle school, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I remember she's always been there,
Mm-hmm.
even though I went to other schools, got older, what have you. Um, I just thought that was so humbling
Wow.
because someone that actually encouraged me and uplifted me and just motivated me, right?
Right.
That everything is going to be all right to come full circle. Me as a teacher, first of all, I still kind of laugh at that. Me as a teacher, and then someone that I looked up to, I guess you could say, as a teacher,
Mm-hmm.
having to be a part of her life just for a second at the end of her career.
Wow.
Oh man, that in itself is, I think, something that I never want to forget. I will hope that I will be able to experience that with one of my students because, honest to goodness, I'm almost. If she remember me, I'm almost positive she probably surprised that I was a teacher. Seriously, because that's, yeah. Like I can see if I was a good student in some things other than PE and lunch, but and math, PE, lunch, and
Be
math,
in
I can see.
lunch.
But it was a struggle, right? And but I would say she would have been like the very first teacher that truly motivated me um in middle school, and to see her at the end of her career, and I don't know if I'm in the middle or the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
but to see her as a teacher, as a counterpart, man, I don't know if that made her feel old, but I know it made me feel great. It made me feel great that she still had that picture.
Yeah, how
She
how
still had that picture. This was
amazing of a
this was
teacher to
1990
hold
something.
on. Yeah, wow.
Yes,
She
yes.
held on
She
to
still held that picture. And it was so ugly, but the fact that she kept it, oh my goodness. So I was a little shocked because she had it, but I was a little shocked, like, ooh, that's how you was going out the door. But yes,
Well, I mean, you got to think about
ah,
it too. Like for that teacher to hold on to it and still have it, that means that you giving it to her meant something to her in the moment. And all those years later, for her to still have it, I tell people like I love looking at art.
mhm,
And throughout the years, I've had students create art and give it to me, and like I hold on to it,
yes.
not just because of the fact that I love looking at art, but because of the fact that I had students that were that found out that I like art
Yeah.
drawings and stuff like that, and they were like, here, let me create this for you.
So, mm-hmm.
And like I cherish that.
Yeah.
It's I know I tell my wife when I wake up in the morning, 13 more years. 13 years and I'll retire.
Right.
And I know like when I've retired for good,
Right.
like having those keepsakes and momentums of this part of my life it's a lot. It
Mm-hmm.
means a lot. And for that teacher, I know like for you to give her that and her to have that this many years later, it meant a lot for you to give that to her.
Yeah, and I do the same thing. Any and everything my students give me, I keep it. I have a container that's just stuff that students thought of me to give
Yes.
to things that they thought to give to me. I mean, and some of it is just them taking the marker on notebook paper and drawing a picture, right?
Yeah.
And to me,
Simple
hey,
stuff.
you thought about giving that to me?
Yeah.
Yes, I'm going to
Yeah.
keep it. I'm going to laminate it. Yes, make
Yeah.
sure you write your name on it, right? Write your
Right.
name on it. So, and man, we can't beat those moments.
No.
You that someone thought of me
Mm-hmm.
enough to say, here,
Mm.
this is for you.
Wow.
And they could have made it for anyone. Their parents, their mom, their dad, their grandmother, someone that is blood related that has just a little say in what it is going on in their life. And that is undeniably priceless.
Price. That's
Absolutely priceless. And I can appreciate that so much. And I think one of the funniest stories I have is that when the students go, Miss Wilson, I thought you were gonna be the meanest teacher in the world. I thought you were gonna be so mean. And I go, I know, right? And I said, I'm just a big old teddy bear. And it's like, like, and that, like, I just had to get used to you. You're fair, you're stern
yeah.
because you care about us. And I
Yes.
go, you know what? I'm glad that you notice that. Like, you don't
Yes.
get on us just to get on us, but you get on us when I'm not doing the right thing. And not just get on them, but just talk to them about the difference in making choices, right?
Right.
So, um, Miss that bring me to Miss Doss, my high school English teacher.
Mm-hmm.
I believe I was in ninth or 10th grade. I can't remember what grade level. But I just remember her saying that because I was in basketball, and she was like, Miss Wilson. She called all of us by our last name. She was like, Miss Wilson, you need English. You need English. Going out to that basketball court every day is all well and good, but you need English, and you need. I was like, Miss Boss, I don't know what to write. She. I remember many days I just had to write, I'm thinking, I'm thinking, I'm thinking, I'm
Mm-hmm.
thinking. And never nothing ever came up, but I was writing something.
Right. Right.
And but I knew that she always had motivating words to me,
Mm.
uh, to just give my best, to do my best, to show
Mm.
up. And I say this to my kids, if you try, you're gonna learn. And I get that
Yes.
from her. I get
Yes.
that from her. So yeah, I've had several teachers that, man, it's a lot of them. It is
Yeah.
a lot of them. And one thing I realized is that their passion and their love was bigger than teaching. It
Mm-hmm.
was the students that was in front of them that
Okay.
made a difference. So, uh, and I would think that I embody them in some type of way as a teacher myself,
Mm-hmm.
as far as how I try to approach students and what I see in the classroom or in the hallways or wherever it may be on campus, to just to remember that although we're the profession that support every other
Every.
profession in this world,
Yep.
we will never be as famous as the entertainers and the major leaguers,
Mm-hmm.
but we're more powerful
Yes.
than they are
Yes.
because they may touch thousands and thousands and thousands. We touch hundreds every year,
Yeah.
you know? So by the time they get to the major league games or get to the movies or get to the concerts, they've had several, at least 12 teachers
Yes.
that
Yes.
has poured into them to be where they are. So
Exactly.
it's not all about rewards, as far as things and substance.
Mm-hmm.
It's about that, we can make a difference. We can
Yes.
make a difference.
Yes. It's the it's those intangible things that we receive from our students and from the community. You know what?
Yes.
I cannot go without acknowledging the parents out there because there have been some throughout the short time that I've been an educator that have shown me how much they care
Yes.
and appreciate what
Mm-hmm.
educators do. So I definitely can.
They are a blessing.
Yes, yes,
Without their support, it is
yes.
just that much harder to be an educator. But when you know that you have the support of the family member,
Mm-hmm.
and for them to say thank you and what can I do to help,
Yes,
man, it takes a village. It doesn't
yeah,
matter what grade level, it doesn't matter what type of school, private school, public school, charter school, it still takes a village,
Yes.
um, helping these babies to grow to the next point of next level of their life. And when parents say thank you, I tell them they're welcome, of course, but
Mm-hmm.
they just don't know how much their support for their students, and some of them say thank you for all of the students, theirs and the other parent students,
Yes.
that goes again, that's part of that realm of another
Mm-hmm.
priceless piece, that we are able to receive, because I've been in a situation where I couldn't talk to parents for
Right.
whatever reasons. The parents just wasn't in the child's life, and it was no relatives.
Mm-hmm.
Certain Title I schools, you deal with non-relatives with
Yes,
these
ma'am.
students.
Yes,
A
ma'am.
lot of students, they're living with friends, or
Mm-hmm.
not someone that they know, but it's just someone that someone knows, and they knew that this baby needed a safe place, and
Mm-hmm.
they take these kids into their home and not even knowing them,
Yes.
and it's all of us. It's
Yes.
it's all of us, and it takes all of us all the time. Not just when they're in school, when they're out of school. And I
Mm-hmm.
think the more that we could show them as a community that we could support each other, love on each other, encourage each other in spite of,
Mm-hmm.
it will make a difference in how they are as adults,
Wow.
and how they will address life in itself.
Mm-hmm.
I truly believe that, and I tell my students this all the time. You may not see it now, right? Because I use my own life. Like, I had no idea I was going to be a teacher. I had no idea that I would be in this, I wouldn't even call it a situation that I would have received such blessing as being a teacher. Because
Yes.
it is definitely a blessing for me to be able to stand before anyone and to be able
Mm-hmm.
to help them in any aspect of their lives. And I just truly believe that, you know, when we can just when we able to just grow together
Yes.
and not lean to why things are the way they are, but more so, hey, we can make it, we could get better, as I
Mm-hmm.
was saying, telling the students, like, you may not see it now, right?
Right.
But you may see it in 10 or 15 years.
Mm.
When I graduated in I forget when I graduated, 1989, I had no idea. I tell my students all the time, I get it. You may be in middle school and don't know what you want to do in life, because I've been there.
Mm-hmm.
I was there in middle school. I was there in high school, where all of my friends, they was very good at being students.
Mm.
Students, they was great at being student athlete. They went home and they did their homework. They went home and studied. They had the support. My mom had 5 kids, right? So she was always working 2 jobs. So I guess I was almost, for us, like a typical household where the oldest child take care of the house while the single parent out working.
Yep.
So my sister is 9 years older than me. So she was still in high school while she was trying to help take care of the family. But I just tell them that, they say, but you're a teacher. And I go, but if you knew my history, my background,
Mm-hmm.
there's no way you would think that I'll be a teacher, right? So
Mm-hmm.
you never know where your life is going to lead you. You just got to give your best at the time that whatever time it is, just give your best, because you just don't know how that's going to prepare you to be wherever your purpose is for life. And I
Yes.
and I truly believe that we may not know right now, but when the time comes, because if we are obedient and follow as much as possible the things that's laid before us, that we will always get to the option,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
As Ecclesiastic, sorry, I'm about to go to Bible a little bit.
Go
So
ahead.
Ecclesiastic, it pretty much says there's a time and a place for everything,
Mm-hmm.
but you got to be ready, is what it says.
Mm.
It's not if you're ready, when your time comes, you will succeed. But if
Mm.
you're not ready, it will, I always tell them, it will come up, right? You will have a chance to do and to be better. You just have to be prepared to work hard to get better. So I definitely never try to tell a student that they will not be successful in life, because that is not true. What they're doing now in middle school or high school may or may not will not determine if they're going to be successful. It's about when they get the chance, will they fight to be or
Wow.
get there, no matter
Yep.
what decisions they've made in their life. And I believe can't nobody turn that away from me because that is me. I'm here now because of that. And nothing in my path, nothing,
Mm-hmm.
nothing in my path showed me or told me this is where I was going to be. Nothing.
Mm,
And I think
mm.
there's probably more students like that than the ones that like, okay, I know exactly what I'm going to do and how I'm going to get there. There's a lot of them. God bless them. God bless them that they're already focused on that. But there's a lot of us that just, hey, today is today and tomorrow is tomorrow and we'll see what
Mm,
happens, you know?
mm.
But they can always be successful. I say, as long as you got breath, you can always fight to be successful. Just how much are you willing to fight to get there?
Wow. Yeah. That's that is so powerful. You brought up the point about uh what the kids do right now in our classroom isn't the determining factor of success in the future. If you ever hear Kevin Hart talk about when he was in school, like
Yeah.
the success that he's made in life, that like people wouldn't have ever thought that. How many kids uh, growing up have had somebody say, "You're not going to succeed because of what you're
Right.
doing right now," and they actually believed it, and that prevented them from becoming
From wanting to
someone.
try. Yes.
Yeah. Mm.
Yes, and I
Mm.
I
Mm.
yeah. Absolutely. And they stick and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me.
Right.
No, words will kill you.
Yes. Yes.
Words are so powerful that they have
Mhm.
such effect that people are no longer with us because of other people's words, right?
Right.
And so if every year we get to touch 100+ new souls
Right.
to encourage them no matter how things become in their life that they could be successful, just don't give up and just try, right?
Yes.
Just
Yes.
try
Okay.
how much meaningful life will be to many of them. And no, it doesn't. Like my friends in high school, right?
Mm-hmm.
They was great. We all went to college, but my story, I barely went to college, and yeah, it's kind of weird how it happened. But anyway, but they was college bound, right?
Yes.
They took the SAT, the ACTs. I don't know nothing about taking them people tests. I already knew what was going to happen, right? Like, no, yep, I'm just again Big Macs, French fries. Man, I love some Big Macs, right? So that's I'm gonna be in the world. I guess that's what it'll be. But I have a master's. Not that it means something to me, right?
Right. Right.
Because of
Right.
me having these friends that was very studious and they was A, B students,
Mm-hmm.
they was in the top 5% of the class and I was in the bottom 5% of the class. And for me to earn my master's and they have their undergraduate, it's not, it's all about purpose.
Right.
It's
Right.
all about the purpose I believe that we're meant for and for it
Right.
to manifest itself. And if we're ready to accept it or not accept it, goes along with it. But yeah, I just no nothing could change my thought process on that because of my experience. That again, you could write out my information, you could write out my story, right?
Mm.
And at the end, if it said middle school teacher and students increasing their grade level in math, nothing in my history, nothing on paper would say this will be a successful mission,
Right.
right?
Right.
And
Right.
so it I believe if you're called to be a teacher, you're called to do something special.
Yes.
You're called to do something that no one else on this earth can do.
Yes.
No one else. They it's a lot of teachers, right? It's a lot of teachers in different aspects,
Mm-hmm.
but when you're passionate about it and you do it day in and day out and you go home and you go to sleep and then you wake up 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, try to figure out a different lesson because not most of your students learn, or you when you pour so much into it and you
Right.
don't realize how it's affecting the things that are around you,
Mm-hmm.
right? How it's affecting maybe your life at home or maybe the things that you want to do in life because you're thinking about, hey, how can I be better? for these students, it takes it toll, but the gratification from it, another piece of the pricelessness,
Right, right,
And
priceless. Well,
yeah, we may not receive what we should as
mm,
educators, but I
definitely not.
believe that the things that we do receive from
Mhm.
those that we give to could never be measured by any amount of substance.
Wow. Wow. The pricelessness that you said, that is a very powerful word because the stuff that we do and what we get back, um not in what we get paid, but
Right.
what comes from it as far as these young people growing into productive members of society, people that are making a difference. That word priceless is exactly uh, the reward of education. And speaking of words, that kind of brings us to the next portion
Okay.
of the podcast. The part that I like to call a word or a phrase. Now, in this part, I like to give my guests a word or a phrase uh, dealing with education, and just let them talk about it, their
Okay.
feelings on it. I did not tell you this word or phrase up front.
No, you
Uh,
did.
so um, but it does pertain to a lot of stuff that you and I have talked about on the side. And that word is belief.
Mm.
To the belief that you can succeed, the belief
Mhm.
that there is a higher purpose for me, the belief that my words impact what our students are going to become in the
Yes.
future because they believe the things that I tell them.
Hmm.
I just like for you to take a few minutes and just talk about that word, its impact, your thoughts on the word belief.
Ooh, I'm trying to make this a little short for you. Belief, man. You know, I'm going to use the word faith, which
Okay.
is
Yes.
which
Same
is
thing. Same thing.
right, which is used interchangeably.
Mm-hmm.
But with faith, right? From me leaving call center corporate America, processing death claims, what have you, and getting on the truck, up until now, me coming to Texas, right? And then
Mm-hmm.
all of the things that I experienced in life, belief, I think, is the number one thing that not I think, that I know that I stand on as an educator. My faith is super important to me, only not because of what someone has told me, but because of what I experienced, right?
Right.
And I believe that when I go to school, when I wake up and get to my class, I get to school very early. And one of the reasons why, and I've always done this, but and I believe one of the reasons why is because it gives me the time to consecrate myself as a educator,
Okay.
right? No one is there yet. I can sit and I can think about the things that I planned out, if it's going to go that way or not. But I can also take the time to pray and ask God to lead me in whatever direction I need to be led in that day.
Yes.
Not to take anything from yesterday or the day before for granted, but
Mm-hmm.
to be prepared to be able to support each student in the way that they need if it comes before me.
Right. Right.
So I use how God has ordered my step, how God has placed me in this position
Mm-hmm.
in order to be before his children.
Awesome.
So when you say the word belief, or believe, I believe in the power of God. I know that this year I have been saying to my counterparts, it's going to take the hand of God for something to change, right? Because
Right.
we stand before the kids and we don't see what impact is having immediately. But
Mm-hmm.
we should know that it is having an impact. And it's not all about it shouldn't be about if we see it or not.
Mm-hmm.
It should be more about did I say it or did I
Mm.
show it? So at the time, they have something that they can lean on that
Right.
someone has given them.
Right.
So I say to my students, especially at the beginning of the year, those that maybe is choosing not to want to
Mm-hmm.
get better,
Mm-hmm.
I say to them that one day you will want something. If
Mm-hmm.
it's not yet, you're going to see something in life that you're going to want to strive for. And you just have to know and believe that you could do it. You can make it no matter what opposition come your way, no matter what obstacles you may
Right.
have, no
Right.
matter how hard it may be. Because
Mm-hmm.
you guys see teachers, and I get it because I was a student and I thought, wow, teachers were this. I don't know. I don't know what the word, but I always thought that there was some type of power to them, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I get it. I understand the little fascination that it may be, especially with middle schoolers, that
Mm-hmm.
comes with being a teacher, right? But one of the things that over the last several years that made my belief
Mm-hmm.
and my wanting to support them,
Mm-hmm.
even if they're not going through anything, to support them and hopefully help them start creating a foundation of good substance, is to let them know about my faith,
Yes.
whether they believe or not. But this is why I know I'm in this position. This
Right.
is why I know things that happened in my life and allowed me to do certain things in my life, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is because of my belief. And if I didn't have that, I don't I know that I wouldn't be in this position because
Wow.
I would have chosen something else when
Look
the
at that.
time came. I would have went with what was more secure, what was more comfortable. As I told you, moving out here to Texas, that happened within what, less than a 2-week time frame.
Mm.
Didn't know I was coming to Texas.
Mm.
I had no clue I was coming to Texas. Interview happened. They said they wanted to hire me. New teacher orientation always start in July. It was at the end of July. I had to get to Texas, and I'm here. Um, we don't control things, no matter
Mm-mm.
what we think and how we think of it. We are here to take care of the earth, and
Right.
everything that happens around that is just how things are happening. I guess you could say it like a better words. So what do I mean? This is only temporary for us, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so because this is temporary for us, what type of mark or what do we want to leave? Do we want to leave saying that it was all about us and we
Mm.
fulfilled everything about what we want to do and how we wanted to do it and we lived our best life, and okay, now it's time for me to close my eyes? Or do we want to be, hey, I hope I left something so someone could have it a little bit easier, or they would know that it's okay, or they will be successful, to leave something of substance with someone. And I believe
Yes.
as teachers, we get to do that year after year after year, no matter how frustrating it may
Mm-hmm.
be. No one else get to do that. No one
Nope.
else, excuse me, Jerry Rice, one of my favorite wide receivers, right? One of
Uh-huh.
my favorite football players of all time. I could think about him playing football and how exciting it was to see him catch the ball, Joe Montana throw the ball, and it gave me satisfaction from football, right?
Right.
But what Miss Spence did as a teacher helped me grow throughout my life, and
Look
not
at
just
that.
at a point in time of me watching a game or me
Yeah.
enjoying a concert. That those things are minute
Right.
compared to what we can give as a teacher, compared to
Wow.
what the opportunity that we have. And I believe belief and faith, the faith that all things work for the good,
Mm-hmm.
and no matter how uncomfortable it may be,
Mm-hmm.
that just one, two, three, or five words can make a difference in how these babies will address life at that moment or sometime in the future.
Wow.
And my faith, because of how things happen for me,
Mm-hmm.
makes a world of difference on how I perceive things in my classroom or on campus or in my student lives. There's no substitute for me. There's no
Mm-hmm.
substitute for that. And without it, I know I could never be successful without it. I could never achieve anything meaningful without it for me.
Look at that. Mm-mm. Belief. That's
And
powerful. It
faith is
is. Faith
powerful, you
is
know.
very powerful.
And you don't
What they
have to
say, it
believe in
move
anything.
mountains, right?
Well, oh, man, and it will make you a teacher and you're a summer school graduate. You barely graduated high school. You know what I mean? Like you
and,
barely graduated high school. They be like, "But you're a teacher." I go, "I know." Like it's
and
funny that, but you're a
you
teacher. I go, "I know." Like
and you grew kids. And
yes,
listen, it's not just the fact that you were a teacher. It's also the lives that you've impacted in a positive manner to make them better. So
the glory to
look,
God, man.
look at that.
It's. I am blessed. I am truly blessed to be able to be a vessel,
Mm-hmm.
to be able to talk about my faith and to be able to show it.
Yes.
And like I remember my aunt asking me, like, "You're not afraid?" Because school and
Mm-hmm.
and religion don't go together.
Mm.
At least that's what they say, you know. And I go, "No, I'm not worried about that because I believe that when I speak, and it is for to encourage
Right.
others,
Right.
it's going to fall the way it falls. And if someone doesn't like it, they're not going to, even if they want to do something about it, the Holy Spirit going to stop them from doing it anyway, because his words got to go out and the encouragement of these babies has to happen, right?
Yes.
And we
Yes.
would rather for it to happen when they're younger, and they even though they might fight not to learn. But
Mm-hmm.
I get more from my students that don't want to do math when I talk about life choices. I
Yes.
get more from them than when I'm talking about, hey, how to divide, because they don't see the importance of division just yet. But
Yeah.
because of what they experience, they see the importance of those conversations about making choices, and then making that with talking to them about making those choices, then it turns into making choices in the classroom
Mm-hmm.
and just paying attention for a little bit to start help building to become stronger, to become more attached
Mm-hmm.
to what they don't see, but as long as they live, that they will eventually experience.
Well, the thing is it's a matter of you have life experience, they don't.
Mhm.
There are things in this world that you know about
Right,
that you can make this stuff relevant to them. And because they don't know it, like
right,
they don't want to take the time to learn this stuff because they don't see how this is going to apply
right. That's
to their
adult
life.
stuff. Don't nobody care
Yes.
about that.
Yeah, well, and that's the beauty of being an educator, us
Right,
being able to relate what they're going to see later on to
right.
what they're doing now. And so with that, we've come to the final portion of the podcast, the part that I like to call well, it's just the last words to the parents.
Okay.
And on this, before I let you go, I'm gonna like turn it all over to you. So in
Okay.
this section, what I want you to do is I'm turning the mic over to you to have a conversation with parents who don't know about the ins and outs of education, the things that we go through as educators. And once you have that conversation with them, give our audience your contact information in case they want to follow you on all of the social medias,
Uh-oh.
uh, or
I'm not a social media person.
look, hey, listen,
Like, I might have to become one. If I have to
I,
become one, that's okay. And
and that's the thing. Like I'm learning now that in my old age, I have to be able to
be out there.
connect to
I
the
I
people,
understand.
and you
I
go
think
look, you're gonna be a pastor, and I
I
know
know, right?
pastors
I
have to
know.
have
I
their
was just
social
thinking that.
media presence
Oh,
as well.
you know
So
what? I'll create some things, and I'll make sure you get it. So if they want
awesome,
it,
awesome.
yes, I'll get that done after Thanksgiving. How about
Yeah, and what I'll
that?
do is like I post this on my website along with
Okay.
all of the social media things, and I'll put your contact information on there
Okay.
as well. And so like I'm gonna shut up. I'm gonna let you
Okay.
have that final word with the audience and specifically to parents who have kids in school and talk to them about, the things that you go through on a daily basis as an educator and what it is that, just pour out your heart to the parents.
Okay. Well, before we end, thank you. I didn't say thank you at the beginning for actually having me on your podcast, so I appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Uh, so to the parents, man, I guess it depends on what grade level, but if you have students, first and foremost, I truly believe in that 99.99% of the teachers are very passionate about being teachers. They're not teachers just because it's something to do. I must say that it's very challenging as a teacher, but also very rewarding. I would suggest that one, get to know your teachers, get to know your student teachers. Because we as educators we do carry a lot, not only just for your students, but we have our personal lives too that actually affects us. And but when we stand before your students, we definitely try not to allow anything but what's important, which is giving your student our best at that during the time they're in front of us. I would suggest that as you get to know your teachers, your student teachers, um, that you have compassion when they may not handle situations just right. Unfortunately, we are human. Well, maybe not unfortunately, but we are human, so we do make mistakes, and sometimes our emotions do get the best of us in situations. So I'm not saying that we're always 100% right, because we're not. We make mistakes as well. But talk to us. Let us get to know who you are. Let us get to know who your student are. Let us understand what it is that we can do for each student. For your student, how can we be supportive of you, because we know that as parents that you all go through a lot, because most of us are parents ourselves, right? So we understand what it is to have a student in the household, and what it is to have a, I'm going to talk about middle school because that's where my certification is. And if we had any middle schoolers in our households, we understand the things that they experience, right? So school is just another aspect. And really, we're in it together. We're in it together. We're here to support you as a parent. We definitely love to be supported as teachers. We like conversations that will help us grow as teachers for your students, and also to support each student and you as a family. If you are not satisfied with certain things in the way that they're going, please be patient and just have those conversations. I've heard where it's been said that the teachers don't care and we just want to come to school and go home, and everything in between is not important. Well, that is not true for most of the time. I can't speak for every teacher, right? But I can say that my 8, 9 years that I've been in education, I have seen more passionate teachers than I've not seen passionate teachers. I believe that we can make a difference if we become one accord. We would not always agree on certain aspect of teaching, but I think that we can all agree that giving a student their best, our best, helping them be successful in whatever content or what grade level they're in currently, is the most important thing that teachers and parents or guardians can give to their student, give to their child, in order to support them to become academically successful. Now, I do want to say this: not every student is made for college.
Right.
Every student is not made for college. There are some students that are gifted in so many other aspects of life. I know, as artists, as musicians, there's so many things that they are very talented at. And so the academic part is very important in order for them to graduate. But your support on those things that may not be a college type of content is still important. It's still important. The most I believe some of the most successful people, excuse me, are not the ones that graduate from college,
Mm.
right? Or maybe they made a C in college, or they wasn't summa cum laude or valedictorian. They did enough to graduate. So I don't think college is a way to determine your child's successfulness. Your support, the teacher's support, and what they want to do in life is what's going to determine if about them being successful.
Mm.
There's a lot of trades that's very successful and that's very meaningful, and that is very useful to us as a country. and people of the world. So my final words would be always support your student. Have an understanding ear on what they're going through. Some students do not work as fast as we want them to. That's not their makeup at this time. But as long as they're trying, they're going to be successful. So don't give up. Continue to push them, encourage them, have open, honest conversations with them, and show them the support that they need. So remember that if you're a person of faith, this will definitely, I hope, resonate with you. When we don't always make the best decision as we're going through life, Jesus and God always forgives us, and they still love us, and they still show us the love of who they are for us. And
Mm-hmm.
that's the same thing that we should be able to show our students, no matter what decisions that they make, because unless you guys has always made great decisions, it's not for you. But if you're one that have not always made good decisions, and sometimes those decisions have repercussions and consequences, honesty with your students about these things is really what's going to help them excel and succeed. And knowing that they made mistakes, but yet they're still encouraged, they're still loved, and they're still supported to do better will make 100% difference in how they address the things that they are experiencing in life. And then they will want to have more open dialogue with you or with their teachers as a safe space.
Mm-hmm.
So I pray that this will be helpful to anyone that's listening, and I pray that the enrichment and the encouragement that maybe is needed at this moment, that you are able to receive it and feel it, and don't lose your faith. Don't lose your faith, because again, I know if my mom could see me right now, she already smiling. She looking down, smiling like, that's my baby. And I know that you guys to say that the same thing too. Just continue to support them and give them the love that they need, and let them know not to stop trying, no matter how tough it may get.
Awesome. Thank you for those wise words. And with that, that ends our podcast. Until next time, everybody.
God bless.
Bye. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this episode of Your Favorite Teacher's Favorite Teacher podcast. If you have a story you'd like to share, please contact me at wdstubblefield@wdsi.us. Again, that is wdstubblefield@wdsi.us. And you could be our next inspirational story of how educators impact our lives. I'm your host, Mr. Stubblefield, and I want you to remember, no profession is possible without your favorite teacher.